A warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today on another one of our great shows in the series of Hair Heroes. As you know, I have been looking around the world to reconnect with some of the most important inspirational artists in our business. And today I'm super excited because this gentleman has been on my radar for years. Many of you don't know this, but originally I was actually trained as a classic barber. And maybe during the show, I'll tell you some of the crazy stories and fun things that happened to me. But my guest today, Vaughn Acord, is a superstar in the men's grooming world. He is the man behind the brand of V76, and I am beyond excited that he's joining us today. Based in New York City, a great story to tell, a celebrity clientele that is, oh my goodness me. I've got so many questions about that because I don't know, some of these guys, if they were sitting in my chair, I'd probably pass out. But anyway, it's beyond the celebrity. It's about the heart of the person, a person who cares and has a passion for this craft, the ultimate professional man. And I was fortunate enough to watch him on stage a few years ago, and I was blown away at his elegance and his compassion and his professionalism. And I think today, more than any other shows we've ever gone over, we are going to find it truly, truly inspiring. So I'd like to welcome to our audience, my fabulous friend, Vaughn. Welcome, Vaughn.
Hi, Vivienne. Thank you so much for having me. This is truly an honor. And as you said, you and I have known each other a long time, and our paths separated for a while. But it's amazing how life works sometimes.
It is indeed, it is. And today what we're doing is we're dividing the show into 4 parts. We're first of all going to explore the journey of Vaughn, how he started and how he has arrived at this amazing place where he is today in New York City in this gorgeous salon that you can see. We're then going to go into his work, the editorial side of what he does, and go inside the mind as to how to create these beautiful images that he creates. Then we're going to actually do a hair demo. He's going to teach me how to do a really cool look on a gentleman. So we're very excited about that. And a big shout out to Pivot Point because we have Samuel, who's over here in the sidelines. And then, of course, we're going to take a deeper dive inside the artist's mind, where we're going to explore the challenges, the roadblocks. How do you navigate through some of the challenges that we all face, especially today? We also have some very special guests who are going to join us to ask their questions. So I hope that you find today not only entertaining, but truly inspirational, and that it will make you think differently about men's grooming. I know we have barbers joining us. I salute you. I love what you guys do. And we also have a lot of hairdressers who are based in lady salons, but yes, they do take men, and they'd like to actually expand that business. So I think we're going to be speaking to a lot of people in need who want advice. So let's start off by actually exploring your world and looking at how did it all begin?
It started with trusting my hands. I started playing the drums. I started beating on my chest as my mother would take me around in her car. And we were in the Midwest, and there was a radio station of Motown out of Detroit called CKLW. And my earliest memories of probably 4 or 5 years old, I would sit on the little part of the car, the front seat that would go down for your armrest, and I would pretend I was sitting on this throne on stage, and I would just be beating on my chest along to the songs. And she would come back in from the post office or wherever, and she'd noticed I kept the beat. And at some point around 5 years old, she bought me a snare drum. And I began to take lessons, and I began to follow that path. So the first amount of money, the first paycheck I ever got was doing session work on a 45 when I was, I think, 14 years old. And it was just something that came very naturally. But to fast forward to today, it's funny that those are the things that sort of you reflect back on, and it really was just something to do with my hands. So being a single mom, she put me through college. She sent me to college. I didn't finish college at Ohio State because I didn't know what I was doing, and I knew it was costing her a hell of a lot of money to put me there. I was her oldest son, and I kept running into these guys on the weekends that looked really fashionable and amazing. And finally, I said to them once, "What are you studying here? It seems like you're happy and you're onto this really cool thing." And they said, "Oh, we don't go to school at Ohio State, the university. We go to the cosmetology school, the barber cosmetology school. You should come down and join us one day for lunch and check it out." And for some reason, it made sense, and I did. I went down, I met him for lunch, and it connected. And I think, again, what was happening at the time was it was doing this craft. It was doing something with my hands, and I started to trust that. So I learned it. I was licensed. Went back to near Oberlin in Ohio, in a little town called Vermillion, and started cutting hair in the Great Lakes there at a salon. And on the weekends, I would go into Cleveland and Cincinnati and Boston and even New York City to play with bands and tour with them. And this one particular band started to get a lot of attention called the Pony Boys. And we started playing at CBGB's in New York when I was, 16, 17, 18 years old. And one of those weekends on an off night, I was out at a club and spotted by an agent, and she wanted to know what agency I was with, and it embarked me in this whole career of modeling. So I had to make a decision, oddly enough, because that came out of left field. And my uncle was very close to me at the time. He was sort of the father figure that I had, even though he was distant. And I checked in with him and I said, "What do you think? Should I do this? They want me to go to Europe." And he said, "Absolutely. You'll always be able to cut hair. You always have your craft and your skill. Why don't you go see what this is? It's just you're young enough. It's a new journey." And I did. I left the hairdressing industry and went to Europe for about 4 years, coming back and forth. And it was there that I found myself being groomed by the likes of you and Dwight Miller and Trevor Sorby and people from Allen International and all of these different hair campaigns that I found myself in, amongst other things. And I don't know, I just got comfortable with that. So when it was time for me to come back, and I wanted to come back to the States, I had been with my girlfriend who was about to be my wife, and we settled in New York City. And the next thing was to go to Japan for a period of 6 months and continue modeling in a different market there. But I really didn't want to, I didn't want to leave her, and I just got back. So I wasn't interested in going and committing to a 6-month period there. And so I started going through castings and doing many different go-sees and whatnot, odd jobs throughout the States as a model. But now I was going into marriage and thought about having a family, and it was inconsistent for me. And there's no second place in modeling. You get the campaign, you get the job, and you make the money, or you don't. And when you don't, there's nothing. And then you're off again looking for the next job. And no different than probably an actor or anyone else. It's the next thing that keeps you going. So one night I was frustrated. Jill, my wife, saw that, and she said, "You should get back into hair. You were always very, very good at hair, and it kind of makes sense." And I thought about it for a little while. I called you, I called Dwight Miller, I called Trevor, I called all these people that I had worked with in the past and that groomed me, and asked them about advice. And that's when this common word of Bumble and Bumble came up. There was a cool thing in the city called Bumble that was happening. And I went down and I hung out at the salon probably for a month in between jobs and tried to place myself into that atmosphere. And talked to Michael, and he said, "Sure, why don't you start?" And I go, "Well, I haven't cut hair in a long time, and if I do this, I want to start all over again. I want to assist and sweep the floors and learn my craft." And I was in Ohio cutting hair before, not New York City, so it was a whole different level of everything. but it was something that I needed to invest in, and I knew that I had to invest in if I was going to go this route. I wasn't going to be able to fake it, and I did. I agreed to it. I started sweeping floors. I think I was 28 at the time. I was a little bit older than a lot of the assistants there, and at that time, it wasn't about so much men's grooming. You wouldn't find a lot of work for men in the editorial world, but Bumble was getting a lot of work when it came to the women. So as that continued to grow, more and more opportunities for men started to show up. So Michael and I had a talk, and he said, let's go out there and let's do that. Let's find you an agent. And it went from doing models with GQ and Men's Journal and various magazines to musicians, and then actors, and then celebrities, and then presidents and senators and all kinds of stuff. But it was a comfortable place for me to be. I had been on the other side of it for a while, and it just made complete sense in some odd way to, at that level, to be grooming these guys. It was my explanation of, again, just trusting my hands, and it's worked out for me so far.
Well, I love that. I love that you said trusting your hands and then letting opportunities flow, because there are amazing opportunities. And if we close our mind to those opportunities, we could be stepping away from our greatness. So I think it takes courage to do that, and courage to recognize, your passion from drumming, your modeling career, which we know is challenged in the women's world, but even more so in the men's world. And then having the courage to go back and go into your world of grooming. I think it's really amazing. We have a guest here, and I'd like to bring the guest in. Hi, welcome, Arhan. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. So I know that you're based in Connecticut, and you were sharing with us that you're still at school, and you have a really great question for Vaughn. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm stereotyping a bit here, and I feel like hair care and salons tend to be sort of this women's world. And I was curious why you chose to go the men's route, and sort of what challenges you faced establishing yourself as the premier men's hairdresser.
I didn't know I was going to be establishing myself at that. It's that sort of ended up happening. I'd like to think of myself as one of them. There's a lot of talented people out there, but it was a thing of comfort, Arhan. When it came to when I found myself in New York City at a salon at that level, and these opportunities that were happening, I felt like I could do this, and I understand that world. I know what it's like to be on set. I know what it's like to wait. Some of the challenges of going over a picture again and again, and things not working, and it just gave me the confidence to start doing that. And then as those results started to come out, the work started to come in more. And then, of course, often people will say, "Well, how do you get these jobs?" And you get these jobs through having an agent. So there's somebody out there that's showing your work through your portfolio, and then you form these relationships, whether it's with a celebrity or it's with a photographer, and they know your craft, they know what you are good at, and they're with many different hairdressers out there doing many different things. Some of them are known for specific strengths, and it was just sort of a natural. I didn't think about it much at the time, but it was fun, and it opened up a whole new world for me, both in the salon and doing editorial work. The thing I did like about men too is that I have always enjoyed being in the salon. I've enjoyed getting questions answered and listening to guys with some of the things that they are challenged with, and they really will open up to you when they're sitting 3 feet away from themselves with a wet head looking in a mirror, and you start to get to the bottom of their challenges, and it really set me in a path as to trying to find the answers and help these guys with that. The volume of work with men wasn't the same as women. And you're right, when you are doing editorial work as a woman, as a guy doing female work, primarily, the work, and as you grow in that, can be so busy that at some point, many of them I've met made a choice between either being in the salon or being out in the editorial world. It's hard to do both and constantly be canceling clients and whatnot. So for me, it enabled me with the volume of work to be able to play in both places, and I was happy to do that.
What advice would you give Arhan about stepping into the world of men's grooming?
There's a lot to know about it, whether it's to be a stylist, to be a designer, to be an art director. There's all kinds of things, different avenues that you can do. So, do a check with yourself as to what it is that's sort of inspiring you. Is it visually? Is it, again, do you want to use your hands and build something, whether it's clothing, whether it's hair, whether it's makeup, and really sort of check in with that. And then there's just so many places that you can start to look into and feel whether or not that's triggering something in you, and be honest with yourself that this is something that you really want to explore, and always know that you're going to have to open up to learning that, and just be a sponge of information when it comes to men's grooming and what's going on with that. It's ever changing. It's exciting.
Can you make this the same or more money than working? Say, for example, you're a hair cutter taking care of female clients, and right by the side there is the men's groomer working. Can you earn equal amount of money?
Well, in New York, it's supposed to be that way. It's difficult here. There was a law, I think, passed, if I'm not mistaken, with dry cleaners and hairdressers that you can't charge different prices for a blouse versus a shirt, or a men's haircut for a female haircut. So what ends up happening is, is it an updo? Is there color attached to it or not? But the basic, and I'm a proponent for raising prices across the board. I think this putting your hands on another human being, it can't be replaced by anything else. And we've watched so many things be taken over we never thought was going to be taking over before. From taxi cabs to music to, these institutions were so strong, the music industry, the taxi industry in London, New York, and now these things like Uber and Apple Music and Pandora and Spotify have rewritten the landscape of that. It's happening in television. It's a screen now with content, and it used to be owned by ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS. That's where you went. And then there was some cable with HBO and stuff. Now there is such a vast, who would have ever thought, Vivienne, 30 years ago, somebody would go in and change network like ABC, CBS, and all that. The point I'm getting to is that you can't replace what we do. You can't replace having that conversation personally with somebody and getting down to the intimate thoughts of people and challenges of people, and giving them something that is so rewarding. And that's the confidence to walk out of the salon and either go and have a meeting at a boardroom, or go on a date, or go on stage. Yet we always kind of are afraid to raise our prices in our industry. So I do think it's possible, but I think as an industry of hairdressers, we have to realize what we do, that it's irreplaceable. And we have to wrap ourselves around a true charge. Now, when I say that, if you're going to raise your prices and you're going to own it, then do that. Show up on time, be professional, be clean, smell good, be creative, educate yourself. These things will drive your price point up, and it's needed. I think it's needed desperately in the industry. So I think the possibilities are there, and some people are doing it, but more people need to do that.
I agree. Well, Arhan, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you'll stay to watch the rest of the show, and we may come back to you a little bit later to see what you're learning and how you're getting on. So thank you. We'll see you in a bit.
Thanks, Arhan. Good to see you, my friend.
You as well.
All right.
Join us for our next episode of Hair Heroes with Vaughn Acord, where we explore the world of editorial styling. What does it take to work with celebrities, rock stars, and even the President of the United States? What are the ingredients to creating a beautiful image working with high-profile fashion magazines? Also, we will look at the difference between a consultation for a gentleman versus a lady. And trust me, there's a huge difference in meeting that gentleman in the landscape where he lives, building a wonderful clientele. So join us for our next Hair Heroes.